right, warm welcome to Start Deliver webinar. High output work week is today's topic, and we will kick it off right away. My name is Johan Nilsson. I'm the CEO and one of the founders to Start Deliver. I was supposed to be joined with my dear colleague Gustav Arén, but we had a little bit of a planning issue today, so I'll be running this by myself today. Great to have so many people signing up for this. We are really thrilled about that. And today we will go really into depth in how to be more operational, effective in customer success. One of the feedbacks we got from our big event Impact was to be more detailed focused, more hands-on, more practical, and that's what we're doing right now. So we're going to go really into the details, and we're even going to share our preferred schedule for working a regular week in customer success. So we really hope you will enjoy this, and we will open up for Q&A in the end, and we will also open up for feedback. We want feedback. We want more from you on what to do, what you need more help in. So please come back to us on that. As always, we will share the material. You will get the recording of this webinar. You will also get the presentation, of course. So do not worry about that. We will do roughly 25 minutes of presentation, and we will have roughly 5 minutes of Q&A in the end. And today's topic is about how to get more out of your work week. But I would like to start actually by talking about another thing. And we meet a lot of organizations where we talk to a lot of people working with customers, being in customer success. And there is a big level of stress in this environment. There's a lot of open loops. You don't feel you get the real progress you want. In these tougher times, sometimes there's a lot of hard discussions with customers, negotiating, wanting discounts, churning, and so on. So we get a lot of, we feel there's a lot of stress in general working in customer success, but maybe in particular in these times, also being maybe working from remote. So one of the main points today is to address this and how to turn this around and become more productive, get more out of your work time, basically. And you will feel better by doing that. And why do we get stress in customer success? Well, it's a lot of things coming at you when you work in customer success. You have a full inbox of emails to take care of. You have usually a backlog of tasks. You have onboarding projects. You have a list of customers you're supposed to be calling. You know there is expansion possibilities. You can upgrade, you can sell more, and you usually have some targets and some pressure from management to do that. Meantime, you're solving problems. You have risk customers that you need to address and take care of. And you also want to do some improvements in your process and how you work and what tools you have. So there's a lot of things coming at you. And this is what we want to address today. And we want to look at how can we be better in planning in customer success. And to become better in planning, you of course need to look at why is it difficult to plan in customer success. And here are a few reasons why it's difficult. We are, of course, very much in the hand of the customer. The customer dictates often the pace of things. So we have to rely on the customer, and sometimes the customer wants something really quick, so we need to do that. We also regularly get interrupted. We are in the middle of we're in between the customer and our company, so a lot of people both internally and the customer side interrupt us all the time. And our priorities can change rather quickly. We can get an urgent call, there can be a downtime, there can be a bug in the product. A lot of things can change, and we need to address it. And I also think a part of the planning issue is that we underestimate how long some things take to make and to do and to get going. So these are things that make it difficult to plan. But on the other hand, there are a lot of things a lot of reasons why we need to keep a plan, because we cannot only do things that are urgent, we need to also do things that are really important but not urgent, and those get usually missed if you don't plan. There are also difficult tasks that you tend to avoid if you don't plan. And if you plan, you start building habits. If you start doing regular things every week, every day, those are habits. And habits, consistent habits, is what really move the needle and make things happen. And by doing things consistently, you gain momentum and you feel more in control. So really important things why we still need to keep the plan, although knowing it's a difficult, we need to be flexible in the plan as well. So where to start? Where to start when you make your plan? And I know a lot of people recognize this this matrix. It's about what kind of tasks are important and not important, and what is urgent and not urgent. And I think to get the plan right, we need to look at these things that in the top corner here. What is important but not urgent? Those are the things that you need to get into your plan. And what can those things be? Well, here are a few examples. Like if you have you need to set up a meeting or a call with like a C-level stakeholder on customer side. This is something to maybe turn the customer around, or to set up for the next level, to get the customer to do more with your product. It's a really important step to change or to improve for this customer. And it's not urgent because it's not a fire burning, but the longer it takes, the less is your chance to turn this customer around or to make this happen, if it's about expansion or if it's about getting the customer to develop with your product. So this is a thing that usually get pushed and pushed and pushed, and it's a risk of not getting this done at all. And it's really important, right? Another of these important but not urgent things is to really look at the early signals of things not going as you want with customers, like a customer dropping in usage last month. Set off the time to look at this and to really be on top of that. Or another scenario is a stakeholder changing jobs on a customer side. Are we picking up those things? Are we noticing that? Another thing is also if we look at how we can expand and how we can do more for a customer, that needs planning, and that needs also to make the analysis and sit down and look at your customer portfolio and see which customers are are using the product and are up for expansion, meaning they can do more with you, they can get more value from you. That usually takes time, and it takes time to think it through and set up a plan for it. These are just a few examples of these important but not urgent things we have to do on a regular basis. So that's key for planning. But also another thing that's really key for planning is some of these urgent and important we act on immediately. We get them done. Customer calls and can't get in. A customer calls about an integration failing, whatever it is, we act on them and we make them happen. But I also know if you don't have a structure, if you don't have a weekly plan, there are some of these things you tend to miss as well. And these are usually the tough things. So if you have a customer canceling, sending an email, we are canceling the agreement, no comment, you just have that in your inbox. It's a difficult one to do something about. You don't really, it's something you easily miss and just leave as is. Similar thing, a customer asking for a refund, discount, or complaining about something, that's also something you need to act on. it can also be like an angry email, upset email, that type of thing. Maybe there's something you have promised as a company, or you have promised as a customer success manager, and you can't really deliver on it. You have overpromised on something. Or it's just simply that we sit and hope for things to happen by themselves. These are things that we tend to miss or forget when we just when we don't plan and take time to address these things. I think this is a great quote. The more difficult calls you take, the more successful you become. It's a little bit a way of turning it around and almost looking forward to making these hard, difficult calls. I know it sounds a little bit absurd, but you have sometimes to turn it around and say, okay, the more times, if there's a call I'm really dreading to do, maybe I should jump on that first. If I just have the time and I can do it, that also builds momentum. Swallow the ugliest frog first is another saying. Just to get yourself to do these difficult calls, that is something that will move you forward. But they are hard. By definition, they are hard. So these are a few things to consider. But we also need to take a step back and see, okay, where are we spending the time? We talked about this in a previous webinar. A lot of companies tend to become reactive, even in customer success. You put customer success in place to be proactive, but still in reality, you are reactive. And this is something you have to turn around and become proactive. And I think that's where why you have to be proactive is because we go back to why customer success? What's the reason for customer success? This is Lincoln Murphy's definition. It's all about getting your customer to achieve their desired outcome. And it's with all the interactions with your company. And you as a customer success, you are of course not responsible for everything in your company, but you are the driver of this. So if you are in reactive mode and not in proactive mode, you cannot do this. You cannot drive this, and the whole company will of course fall short of the point of customer success. And this is, I think this is important to realize that's why we have a customer success team. That's why we're investing in this. It's because we see the customers staying for the long term, and they only stay for the long term if they really achieve what they got your service for. So not forgetting that, I think we then can start looking in more detail on how to set the actual plan. Before going into the actual plan and schedule and what to do, it's also good to look at leakage, what we call leakage. Because I know a lot of people, after working a full week, they look back and say, what happened? What did I really do this week? What did I achieve? Where did the time go? What happened? And this is not. I think this is common. I think this is not like people being lazy or not organized. It's just it happens, and unless you look at it and unless you get aware of what the leakage points are, it's also very difficult to change this. So looking at some leakage in terms of time, we start with time as a leakage. Administration, are you spending time on administration? And with administration, we don't mean preparing for a meeting with a customer, analyzing a customer's health data, not that type of admin. Admin could be you are updating the web, you are fixing document templates, you are, I don't know, setting up stuff in the office, you are installing a new screen, you are doing other people's work. That type of admin is leakage for you. Internal meetings, of course, you will have team meetings. Of course, you will have some internal meetings, but how much time are we actually spending on internal meetings? That's also can be a big leakage point. Another one is inbox, what we call inbox junkie. We check our mails. We check our mails every 5 minutes, and as soon as there's something new in the inbox, we address it, we look at it, we are really curious what kind of stuff get to our inbox. And this is really a really obstacle if you want to become productive, is looking at your inbox all the time. And of course, by definition, you become reactive. Not taking the time to prepare. We just run from one thing to another, and usually that takes a lot more time than setting down, preparing, and then doing the meeting, the call, whatever it is. Another thing is that we don't set off time to set appointments. In sales, everybody who's been in sales know how critical it is to have enough time preparations to set appointments. In customer success, we underestimate this. We believe we spend 1 hour to book 5 meetings, and usually that's never going to happen. So we also need to put in time to get real quality time with the customer. So these are some points to address. We will get back later to our idea on how to solve these. Another type of leakage is in not having the right priorities. And what we mean here is that you don't have actually visibility. You don't know how your customers are doing. You don't have it accessible to you. You don't have relevant information on how the customer is actually doing. Where are they in the onboarding process? How much of your product has been adopted? What is the next step for the customer? You don't have a proper handover from sales. You don't know what this customer wants to achieve with your product. And this is leakage, because if you always have to start over, and if you have to talk to the customer before getting this in place, you will not be as efficient. So these are some of the leakages, and how to get this right. Well, you need to prepare. So before you can get a really great work week, you have to have some things in place. We will share a few things that partly is the start to deliver product, but it's also more in general, of course, what you can do with Excel, with spreadsheets, whatever you have. But what it comes down to is, before you start your work week, you need to be able to analyze your customer. You need to be able to see how they're doing, both as an individual company, but also as a portfolio of customers. How are they doing? How is my portfolio doing? Where are they in which phase? And be able to, an easy, quick way to see, are they using the product? Are they getting the outcome they want? I mean, remember Lincoln's definition of customer success. They want, we need to bring them to their desired outcome. And if we can't see that, if we can't track that, how do we know where we are, and how do we know where to prioritize? And we also need to understand, is their experience the right? Are we delivering both in terms of the product is one part, but it's also about us, our interactions, our support, our web, our training, our guides, everything around the company. How is the experience? Is the experience good as well, or are we maybe failing there? So unless you have real data to look at, easily accessible and relevant, you are stumbling in the dark. So that's preparations that you need to have in order to bring this to get into a real work week as a customer success manager. And from here on, you of course also need a working tool to prioritize, to to be able to build your to-do list based on data and not gut feel, because then you're back again to being more reactive instead of a proactive approach. So prioritizing based on data, that's also a part of setting yourself up to be able to do the work from the start. Then, before we get into the actual schedule, which will be the last part of this webinar, we also, as a customer success team, need to look at leverage. How can we get more out of what we do? We talked in the beginning a little bit about how sometimes we get drained with things that is not on our table, and we should also look at involving other other parts of the company and getting more out of our work. So basically, looking at what from our other teams can help us. Or help our customers actually. And just to give you a few examples here, of course, sometimes customer success is also doing the support. So then you don't get a lot of help from support. But maybe that's a resource you would need to take in order to do more proactive work as a customer success manager. If there's a lot of admin stuff you're doing that's not related to customers, maybe that should be done by some other team, or maybe that's a new job you need to hire for. Onboarding, if you're taking care of all the onboarding, maybe there's parts there that could be handled by other teams, so you can spend more time with the customers. Training, are you doing the training, or could we maybe can we have one role or one job or a team taking care of training? Sales, I know some companies, they involve sales also in the onboarding phase, maybe not the whole phase or parts of it, so you can get some help from sales in that part as well. Are you doing all the communication templates? Are you doing all the guides? Are you doing all the marketing material, or can marketing be more helpful? Marketing tend to spend more time on lead gen and new business, but there's a lot of opportunities to make more efficient communication to the customer. So can you get help there? Are you spending all your time setting up guides and templates? Then of course you cannot spend your time talking to the customers. So so I think you also need to look at how can we get more help into customer success. And another part is to bring in management as well. Don't be afraid, I would say, to involve like a senior C-level, your manager or the CEO or some senior management in a customer you're trying to turn around. It's your job to see where we need to make the effort, but sometimes you cannot do everything yourself. So we need to be transparent internally and be able to bring in the cavalry if there is a big customer we're on our way of losing or churning. And I would say don't be afraid to get help there. Sometimes it's almost like starting the sales process from scratch, and then you probably need some other people to help you. So a lot of things can be done to get more leverage into customer success, but you need to look at it and you need to be open about it and you need to ask for it. So you don't just try to cover everything by yourself. Now, let's look at how we can set up a really effective weekly plan. Our goal with this plan is to get more quality time with the customer. That's the main goal with this plan. And we quality time, we mean prepared, actionable, proactive work with the customer. So that's the goal, and that's why that's what we had in mind when we set up this plan, this weekly schedule. And the highlights here, we will go through this a little bit more in detail, of course, but we set aside 2 hours roughly for internal meetings. We set aside 7 hours of the work week to do priority work. We'll explain a little bit exactly what we mean with priority work. We set aside 7.5 hours to manage your inbox and to-do list. We will go through that as well. 6 hours of call time, and this is actually time talking to the customer on the phone. And 6 hours of meeting time. So if you do, we calculated six meetings. The meeting should never be 1 hour if not needed, but there's always preparations and follow-ups to be done. So we set aside an hour slot for each each meeting. So all in all, if you have a 40-hour work week, you have roughly 28.5 hours in the schedule, and you have 11 hours of slack, roughly. And this is, of course, not this is not the ultimate truth, and this is not the final schedule for everyone to use. But we want to inspire you to look at it and adjust it, of course, for your type of business, how you go about, and for some companies, we need to do 20 meetings a week. For some companies, it will be 3 meetings a week, and so on. You have to adopt, of course. So getting into the schedule, this is just a screenshot, but we have a Google Doc spreadsheet that we will share with you, where you can take it, or you can use it, or you can just play around with it if you want. As you can see, we have different colors. I will go through what they mean. Mondays is usually like a more of a internal day, where you have internal meetings and you set aside a little bit of time for planning. We have in this schedule, we have done time before lunch is calling time, and after lunch we do actual appointments and meetings. Of course, you can set it up as you wish, but I think it's still good to be that kind of strict in your, this is when I do my meetings, this is when I do my calls. Not to mix and match this too much, because then you end up in having no plan at all. We'll get back to the details of the schedule, but to go through some important parts. First part, inbox zero. This is really key concept, because you have to be really efficient in handling all the things coming at you. And this is, today it's emails, it's Slack, and can be LinkedIn, other stuff, chats and so on, intercom, whatever you have. Do that maximum 3 times per day, in the morning, after lunch, and in the end of the day. And then the main point is to empty the inbox. If it's a task you can do with under 2 minutes, do it immediately. If there's something you have to takes more, put it in the action list. If it's a bigger thing that's not actionable, you put it in the project list. If it's something you can delegate to someone else, put it in your waiting for list, so you make sure it happens. This is not our concept. People who are familiar with getting things done recognize this. But inbox zero is a way of getting away from this inbox junkie stuff, where you look at your inbox all the time. Do it only 3 times a day. It will make your life easier for sure. The pink part is priority work. This is blocked time to do your top priority things. And these are really important to keep blocked. And this is not time to do other stuff. This is time to do the most important things you have. And usually it's quite nice to just make it 3 or 5 or 2 or whatever you want, but put a single number. These 3 things I want to achieve this week. These are really important things that I want to achieve, and be very specific what the actual outcome should be and the time frame. Like example, talking to 3 different stakeholders at the churn risk customer called X, and latest by Thursday. To make it very specific and within a specific time frame, it also helps you become more actionable. Call time. This is blocked time to actually call customers. Focus on the calling, have a prepared list. It takes time to get hold of people. And email, of course, you should use email, but email and calling is not, you don't replace calling by email. Email is great for some things, but calling is critical for other things. And you get much more insights from calling and talking to the customer. Don't forget that. I know a lot of people, of course, do this all the time, but sometimes we take the easier way by emailing, but you need to have time to talk to the customers. And you need to talk to several people usually on the customer side. Don't fall into the trap on only talking to the one you know the best. So call time is important, and call time is important for this part, to set appointments, because usually you need actual web meetings or physical meetings to get things going with the customer, to present your idea, to go through the issue you're having, to solve things. You need to have the actual time and get all the people in the room. Also here, appointment time is of course also when if you're handling onboarding and projects and other things as well, you need appointments. Aim for 30 minutes with a clear agenda, because you need, and to do that you need to prepare, and and if you can keep 30 minutes, you have it's easier also to get the time to follow it up properly. And those things are of course the key thing to having good appointments. We also added something we call status communication. Usually when you get in trouble with a customer, it's almost always about poor communication. It's even if your product is having problems, or it's bugs, or there's a lot of mess, it's usually down to communication. So set off a time on the Friday every week where you update all your customers on the status of the projects, and communicate again to all the people involved, even C-level. It's even more important to keep them on board. And even if nothing has happened for the whole week, it's still important to communicate. This and this has not happened, unfortunately, but we have the plan to go forward. We will do it next week. We'll catch up on the weekend. We will do this and that. Be very transparent and make sure everybody is on the same page. So that's on the Friday. This is the schedule again. As you can see, it's pretty strict. There is some flexibility, of course, around it, and use this as inspiration, and use this as a way to get more out of your week. So a little bit late, but in summary, if you want to have a high output work week, this is what you have to do. If you're feeling stressed, it usually comes from the feel of lack of progress. And the only way to get progress is to actually know and see the customers and what to do with them. The next step is to get the time and the resources to do the actual work. A weekly plan will help you to set this up and get this going. It will also take away leakage. And more quality time with the customer always leads to progress. So in a nutshell, this is what this webinar has been about, and I hope you can take some things with you and get more out of your work, basically. That was the presentation part. We will now open up for some Q&A. You can post your questions in the webinar straight away. I have received one question, and the question is about, sometimes it's hard to reach the stakeholders, and sometimes you don't get response. What do you do? And I think this is absolutely a really relevant question, and it's something you have to face. I think one part there is to see, why am I contacting the stakeholder? Am I calling just for calling, or am I calling with a clear agenda and a clear point? And that's about the why, and that's about analyzing the customer and seeing what do we want to do here? What's my plan? And that's one part of it. If you have that and there's still no response, another thing is sometimes you have to talk to other people first. So if you can talk to other people around the stakeholder and understand a little bit more where they are, then you have an easier way in, and you can also use a little bit what his or her colleagues are saying. And the third part to this one is to start with other things. just get closer to the customer. Start working with something that's maybe not straight away on the C-level table. Get to know them, get to spend time there, and then usually you get your way in. But it can be really difficult. It's been great to have you, and hope you have an awesome Friday, and see you soon again. All the best.